You're listening to 360 Digital, a podcast brought to you by Opinion's all-in-one user feedback software. This podcast series tackles a number of different topics under the digital umbrella, from best practices in UX and CRO to the latest trends and innovations in customer experience and digital marketing. This is 360 Digital. Hi everyone, my name is Erin Gilliam and welcome to a brand new episode of 360 Digital. Last month, in episode number 4 of our podcast, we highlighted the e-learning industry. During this episode, we spoke with Drillster's marketing manager, Tessie Woostenberg, and learned all the ins and outs of this industry and what kinds of digital strategies these organizations leverage for success. Today, however, we're going to explore the wonderful world of product marketing. So product marketing is essentially the process of bringing a product to market, promoting it, and then selling it to a customer. So it involves understanding the product's target audience and using strategic position and messaging to boost both revenue and demand for the product. But it also happens to be a critical part of your marketing strategy and approach. So I guess the question is, what kind of product marketing approach do you need to truly achieve growth? In this episode, we will dive deeper into this topic with the help of a well-seasoned product marketer. Today's guest speaker is the product marketing lead at Meister, which is the maker of the beautiful collaboration software MindMeister and MeisterTask. In her role at Meister, this speaker helps to drive the vision and voice of Meister's collaborative team software. And with roots in multimedia journalism, she approaches marketing with a focus on storytelling and strives to develop unique insights into the product and user. So without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to today's special guest, Michelle Matus.
Hey, Erin. Thanks for having me today.
Hey, Michelle. Thanks for taking the time out to chat with us today. Maybe you can start off by telling us a little bit more about yourself and maybe your background as a product marketer.
Yeah, thanks. My name's, as you said, is Michelle Matus. I'm originally from the U.S. And living in Vienna, Austria, where Meister is based. So I've been with Meister for about a year and a half, working with our product marketing team. And we have about 25 million users. So it's a large, wonderful group of people that we have globally all around the world.
That's awesome. That's quite a few users.
Yes.
Before we get started, Michelle, thanks for introducing yourself. We always like to break the ice a little bit with our guests. So we have a quick question for you. Are you ready for it?
Yes, I hope so.
Okay.
Icebreaker.
So, Michelle, we had a quick call yesterday, and you told me that you guys over there in Vienna are still in lockdown. Which leads me to believe that you've probably also been forced to find a few new hobbies to pass the time, and I'm guessing one of them might be Netflixing on the couch, or at least I'm hoping.
Yes.
So my question for you is, what is the last TV show that you binge watched?
Oh my gosh. Right now we're in the middle of binge watching Fargo. So the series, not the movie. I don't know. I know if you've heard of it before, but it's totally awesome and it's super binge worthy. I recommend checking it out. The other thing that we're watching too is a German series called Dark, which is really fantastic.
Oh, I think is that with all the kids. I think I've seen that one.
Yeah, it's like a time traveling and it's a not what but when sort of situation. It's very trippy, and I totally recommend it, especially if you're sitting in a dark apartment all by yourself.
Yeah, and it's probably good for your German since you're living over there in Austria.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, well, I'll have to check it out then. I guess we'll just go ahead and get started now that we know that. Maybe you can kick off the episode by telling us a little bit about your job as a product marketer. So you mentioned where you work, but maybe you can also touch on things like the day-to-day challenges that you face in your role.
Yeah, so I love and hate this question because the no 2 days are really similar, I guess, in product marketing. So it's a really hard to define role. We sort of kind of sit at the intersection of product, sales, marketing, and then also customer success. So in my role as a product marketer, I really look at myself and our team as the voice and the advocate for the user. So we really have a lot of communication with each of the departments, both internally and then also with our users and partners externally. So on a day-to-day basis, it's a lot of meetings, it's a lot of research, planning, and it really also depends on where in the life cycle of the product we're sitting. So, like I said, at Meister, we have both MindMeister, which is a tool that we've had around since 2007. So it's a very mature tool. And then we also have MeisterTask, which is a little bit newer. It's our task management solution. And they're both in kind of different places in the product. Where, depending on where they're popular. So MeisterTask is really popular in Europe, whereas MindMeister is really popular globally. So there's different challenges that come with each of the products. And so on a day-to-day basis, and some of the challenges that we have are really centered around communication, both internally and externally. So we communicate a lot with each of the departments, really to make sure that we're aligned and all understanding that we're moving in the same direction with each of the products. And then externally, we're always communicating with our users. So whether that be surveying or speaking with users on social media or communicating with them through our sales and customer success teams. So it's a pretty broad job that requires a lot of communication and organization, in addition to kind of the more traditional expertise in marketing and research.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you're having to work with a lot of different people, I imagine, to kind of get like one strategy set up. So that could be one of your biggest challenges, I suppose. Are there ways that you overcome those challenges with working with so many people and having these tight lines of communication? And if so, are certain tools that you guys leverage to manage these activities?
Yeah, so I think that the biggest challenge is kind of aligning and that communication both internally and externally. And so we use a lot of kind of traditional tools that to communicate internally. So we kind of drink our own champagne in a way. So we brainstorm and plan projects in MindMeister, and then we also do our task management and execution of projects in MeisterTask, and you can kind of communicate on those platforms and channels. And then, of course, we use Slack and other tools in that regard. And then externally, when we're communicating with our users, it's really important that we're constantly, having that quantitative data where we're kind of seeing what they're doing and how they're interacting, but then also the qualitative data. So that's where surveying tools like Mopinion come in, and we're able to actually get a pulse and an understanding for what our users are doing, how they're using the tools, what their pain points are, and it really helps to kind of provide that context. So we and that's really important for the job as a product marketer, because we're, again, informing, the product team and working in tandem with the product team, as well as informing our traditional marketing arms and our sales and customer success teams with kind of how our users are working with the tools. So I would say the most important things for us are being able to communicate internally, and then also with our users, finding creative solutions to understand and communicate with them. So like I said, Mopinion and Survey Legend are really two of the tools that we use the most.
And you mentioned before, actually, I think this is kind of an interesting one, is product marketing is kind of a new field. So you have your product managers and they, work closely with the technical teams and things like that. But you really have to like kind of translate things in a different way. So I'd be curious to hear, how does product marketing line up next to traditional marketing methods? So those marketing teams that were really focused on demand generation.
Yeah, so in at Meister, and I think it really depends, since, as you said, the product marketing is a newer field. It depends on the company that you're in, and really, I think the product that you're marketing. But for Meister, we sit in the marketing team, so we work alongside both. We have a content marketing team and then a performance marketing team, and we work with them really closely to kind of hone the message and ensure the messaging is on point, on all of our channels. And I think it's really important to kind of take the multi-pronged approach to marketing. So we are as product marketers are deeply invested in the user experience, the story that we're telling about the product, and kind of creating that empathy. And then our content marketers help to translate that into really cool blog posts and other consumable content for our users that help them to kind of amplify the message and really understand how to use the product. And also then our performance marketing team, whether that be creating landing pages, creating Google ads, social media ads, etc. We kind of all have to be in alignment and making sure that we have the same messaging, that we're really telling the same story. And I think a lot of that comes from the product marketing team, which is really developing and crafting that message.
Yeah, so it sounds like you guys really you really complement each other in one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can't do this job or do a marketing strategy effectively if you don't have kind of all of those components. So I think we're absolutely essential to each other and essential to really the success of the product.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that leads me then to my next question. You've probably heard the term product-led growth. It's being thrown around all over the place now. And we're also seeing that product marketing teams are seeing, a surge in demand as businesses are realizing that, a product-led strategy is really something that can help excel the company in all areas of the product's life cycle. So we're kind of curious to hear, what are your thoughts on leveraging a product-led growth strategy? Is that something that you guys focus on?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think we would categorize ourselves as a product led organization. And for us, I mean, that means that we're, again, really deeply invested in the user, deeply invested in kind of the market and where we sit in the market and how we are, adapting our tools, creating features that are really satisfying the needs and alleviating sort of the pain points or the problems that our users are having. So, that a product-led strategy really relies on research, really developing deep insights, and then a strategy to fit that. So, I like to view our product marketing team as like the people with the finger on the pulse for what's happening in the market, what our users are saying, what our competitors are doing, and then we kind of translate that into information that our product team can use to help to kind of brainstorm and create new features that will complement the product. And it helps us all make better decisions about really what we're doing on a company level, where we're moving, and kind of the broader vision of the product.
Yeah, so let's hone in on that. So, what kind of goes into developing a product strategy? So you mentioned a few things, but maybe also you could say something about product positioning or working with personas. The content you said is obviously from the other team. Those kind of things.
Yeah. So basically, like a lot goes into a product strategy, and from the product positioning. So coming up with the idea, like I said, I've been with Meister for a year and a half. So MindMeister and MeisterTask were created before my time at Meister. So some of the product positioning that we do is really, again, kind of continuing to understand the market, where the market's going, and mind mapping software or task management solutions. But then we also have a third product that we're actually launching that we've been working on for quite a while, about a year. And so creating that product strategy with the new product is really cool and exciting because you're doing a lot of research. You're looking into what's out there, what are people doing, what are people talking about. So kind of looking at doing deep dives into Reddit about pain points that people are having with other products that maybe already exist in the market. Then you're kind of growing and developing those personas. So who is going to actually be using this product? What problem is it really solving for this person? And then you're really trying to develop that story with the product that you're working on. So while I'm not on the technical side of it, we can kind of help to brainstorm and bring together, kind of best practices for, if you're entering a market that has existing tools and existing users there as well. So we're really trying to key in on where we can find that niche that we're really solving a problem and a pain point that people are having with either existing tools or with our tools that have been around for a little bit longer, like really trying to understand how our users are using it. And then that helps us to develop the product roadmap going forward for the next 6 to 12 months to really focus in on some of the things that people want to see in the product. I don't know if does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. And it's really interesting you say that, because you do all this research to kind of just see if it's also a good fit, both the existing products, but also maybe future products. So it's really interesting to see how you guys do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you never want to build like a solution in search of a problem. Like, I think it's really important to identify a problem and then find a solution to fit that. So I can't remember who said it, but you want to fall in love with the problem, not the solution. And so
Yeah.
trying to find that problem and that issue that people are having and really trying to solve that for them instead of, kind of being fascinated by a technology that, maybe is in need of a problem or in need of a customer or a user. So you really have to define those things, I think, before you can really build and plan a successful product.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, now we're going to move on then to our next segment of our podcast, and that is our social media moment. I think I explained to you before, during our social media moment, we like to read off an interesting tweet from another digital enterprise and just get your take on the matter. So
Cool.
let's see.
Social media moment.
Product Tank ED recently tweeted, this week's product management top tip Thursday is for anyone creating a new product roadmap. So using an effort versus impact scale when brainstorming can be a great way to get started. So my question is, would you agree with this statement? And it's kind of a few questions. If so, how does your role as a product marketer really play into the creation of a product strategy? And how do you use things you mentioned before, user feedback? How do you use those types of tools to influence your product strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. So an effort impact matrix is really important. I think that the reality is that we all have finite resources, whether those be human resources or finances or just time in the day in general. And so I think it's essential to find like a healthy balance between those quick wins that have high impact and are relatively low effort to the long-term big impact projects that are a lot of effort, but also have a high impact. And then those tasks that nobody wants to do, the maintenance tasks that aren't easy, but are super necessary, just to kind of keep the engine running, as it were. So with an effort impact matrix, you can really visually identify projects, ideas, potential features that are going into a product as one of those things that are maybe serving one of those four kind of quadrants and the broader picture of the company. So I think that, from a product marketing standpoint, like we try to use user data to really identify what's going to have and help the product team identify what's going to have that big impact for the user. So I may sound like a broken record, but really kind of solving those problems and really getting to the pain point that the user is having. So obviously it's fantastic if you can have those quick wins that are super easy to implement, super easy to roll out, and then also have this big impact and really help the user. And so we can only find and understand those with that qualitative data. So we can see what our users are doing, kind of how our users are using the tool. But unless we really understand why they're doing it, it's impossible to really make, I think, a strategic decision about, rolling out a feature or updating or fixing something within the product. And so having kind of an effort to impact matrix helps us to categorize what is really worth our time and effort and energy using those finite resources. And I think getting that user feedback is really, really helpful to help us understand and be confident that we're categorizing things in an effective way.
Yeah, interesting. And so let's say you have your strategy set up. I'd be curious to hear, how do you work through the strategy with various departments? So you mentioned before you have lots of communication with different teams. What does that collaboration look like when you're setting up a strategy like this?
Gosh, it's a lot of collaboration. It's a lot of communication. So I think my job is like 50% communication and really just making sure, like, I feel like I'm kind of the air traffic controller in a way. So really, there's a lot of things coming in at all times. So when things are kind of at the start of a product roadmap, you're really looking at what the developers are doing, what the product manager is organizing on the development side. So there's a lot of action and a lot of work going in on that end. And as a product marketer, we're kind of in the room and getting the updates on, when a product or a feature is going to be finished, when it's going to be in testing, when, what actually it's doing. So we're kind of seeing that as it's developing. And then we're taking that information to our customer success team, because our customer success team knows our customers really, really intimately. And they're then able to ask the questions of what our users will need. If it's, help center article, if it's a tutorial video, if it's, a new training course or something like that. And really, we kind of work with the customer success team to identify what the user will need to really understand and use the feature that we're rolling out, or the features that we're rolling out on the product roadmap. And then then we, at a little bit of a later stage, we kind of loop in the sales team, and obviously, like, they're going to bring that to our direct customers and really understand. They need to have an innate understanding of the feature as well, and kind of what pain points it solves, what problems, and how to actually have our direct customers adopt this feature and have it be really successful. So it really depends on, like, at the start of the roadmap, we're really communicating a lot with what's going on, how it's working, and then as we kind of move towards that, bringing that feature, that product to market, move towards the commercial teams that are really going to be the liaison between the product and the user. So a lot of collaboration, a lot of communication, a lot of back and forth with really making sure we're asking the right questions, making sure that we're understanding the feature correctly and how to actually get our users to use it and be happy about it.
Yeah, that's interesting. And what you said about with the customer success teams, that you essentially need to figure out what kinds of content work as well to get your users on board with new products or new features and things like that. That's interesting to hear.
Yeah, it's super important. I mean, our customer success team is really, like, they're the people that are working most intimately with our users. And, what I try to do and what I try to always keep in my head is, how can we make the customer success team's job easier? Because they're the ones that are answering, tickets, answering questions and queries on a one-to-one basis with the users. So they know before anybody else if there's an issue or really what's happening when we roll out a new feature. So having that really kind of instantaneous communication with our customer success team is essential to then also being really agile and helping to, if a feature isn't working the way that somebody imagines or intuitively thinks that it should work, we can take that information that we get from either our surveying in app or from the feedback that the customer success team is getting from our users, and really then try to implement that back into the roadmap and optimize and help to make the product and feature better.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, I mean, we can't, it seems, have a podcast without mentioning the COVID crisis. But going back to all your
Sure.
collaboration, yeah, unfortunately. But
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
also imagine that remote working kind of affects this workflow. So collaborating with your success teams, with your sales team. Has that affected you guys at Meister? And if so, how do you kind of deal with that?
Unfortunately or fortunately, I guess, for us, the COVID crisis was a good opportunity to actually enhance our communication. So we usually sit in office, though we do make collaboration tools like remote collaboration tools, which help remote and distributed teams. So it gave us actually a really cool insight into understanding, how we can actually use our own tools and how we can better enhance our collaboration with our teams, because we, it's a different thing to be sitting at home and trying to work and to complete something. And we also then saw a huge amount of growth over the last year, just because of the fact that people were looking for task management solutions and brainstorming and collaboration tools to really continue to get work done. So we got a lot of really cool insights into kind of our own ways of collaborating and how our users also collaborate. And it discovered some pain points and ways to actually improve our own tools while we, kind of struggled with getting on board with the remote collaboration.
Yeah, I didn't really think about it. It's probably been actually a really good year for you guys, being a task management tool and everyone working remotely nowadays.
Yes, it was. I mean, I think that we're really happy that we were able to, to provide that that technology and that service for people. And it's been not a fantastic year, to put it lightly, but in some small ways, we've been able to help keep the keep the lights on and the engines running for a lot of teams that we're really trying to struggle and find a way to work together. And we also saw that too. A lot of education users actually started to use both MindMeister and MeisterTask more readily, because it was, we try to make tools that are really easy to use and easy to onboard with new users and people that maybe aren't as technologically savvy. And so it was a cool opportunity to see and kind of open up a new market for us.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess just to sum things up then, maybe we can kind of reflect on everything you've just said and think about, okay, all these product marketing efforts that you guys are doing, how did these contribute to the growth of the company in your opinion?
Yes. Well, I think that, for job security purposes, I think that product marketing really contributes a huge impact to the growth of the company. I think that, we are, especially in the SaaS industry, especially in a space where there's a lot of competition and a lot of, sorry, losing my word, a lot of competition for users, a lot of really innovative tools that are coming out. I think it's really important that you have people that have kind of their job is to keep an overview of what's going on in the market and bringing those insights back in a way that is understandable and usable and actionable for the product team. For the leadership teams who are making decisions, about the mid and long term goals, for the sales team that are, trying to understand the best way to position and sell the product. So I think that really, because product marketing is a bit of a catch-all, or that we sit at the intersection of all of these different departments. I think we're really helped to smooth the path to understanding of where our product fits, where our opportunities are, and also seeing potentially where those new areas of growth could be.
Yeah, so it really sounds like it's kind of becoming the backbone of a company, especially in the SaaS industry, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I think that when you silo information or when you kind of silo departments, it becomes really difficult to understand what everybody's doing and the conversations that are happening. And so when you have somebody, like a product marketer, especially, I mean, this is how we work at Meister, but when you have somebody that is in the room having the conversations in addition with the internal teams, as well as doing the research, the market research, the competitive analyses, you really, and then, my job is to kind of bring all of those insights together, both from research and then, the internal conversations that are happening to really help to the leadership and the product teams to make informed decisions. And so, I think that some of these pieces can get lost, or they can kind of get pushed to the side, or like you were talking about the effort impact matrix, like maybe people don't see the value of doing really deep competitive analyses, on a very regular basis. And we are able to pick that up and really kind of, craft the message for why it's important. And, we kind of internally market as much as we externally market.
Yeah. It sounds like a really nice challenge too, though.
Yeah, it's cool. It's exciting, and it's never boring. And it's always kind of new and dynamic. So you can't ask for more.
Yeah. Well, Michelle, before we go, we always like to give our guests a moment to share any last bit of advice they have for our listeners. So I'm just going to catch you off guard here. Are there any takeaways that you'd like to leave our audience with, maybe about product marketing or growth?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that the biggest takeaway that I have, and especially after kind of the year that we've had, is really try to learn to be empathetic, both with the user and with also, with your collaborators and your contributors on your team. I think building empathy really helps us to understand where people are coming from, and really helps us to be, I think, not only better coworkers and collaborators, but also better marketers and better product builders, because I think we are able to really see where somebody is coming from, and really, I think when you build empathy, you're able to build better products.
Empathy, got it. Wow, that's great advice. Well, Michelle, we want to thank you again for your time and for joining us today on the show. It was really great to hear your insights.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Great. Well, that's it for today's podcast. Hopefully this has given all of our listeners a bit of insight into the world of product marketing, and really just what kind of approach you should take to achieve growth. So thanks for joining. We hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and we're looking forward to bringing you much more exciting content here on 360 Digital. Thanks for listening, and be sure to tune in for a brand new episode next month.